Hello, we're looking at a quick introduction to the Qualtrics survey tool. One important aspect of Qualtrics is getting on the right service. For York St John students, we have a link in the Moodle Services menu to get you to the correct location. If you just Google, you might end up in a different place. Look for York SJ in the web address, and down the bottom of the login screen you'll see a message from York St John University. Your login is just going to be the name part of your email address, so without the @yorksj.ac.uk, but use your usual password. When you sign in for the first time, you need to say, no, I don't have a pre-existing account here. Unless you're an existing Qualtrics user, this will be the one to go for. Click sign in. You have to accept the terms and conditions, and you can change the language to UK English and get started. There's a little introductory wizard, which I'm going to skip over here, and this is your main dashboard. Your projects will be listed on the left here. We're going to create a new project, a survey project, and get started at the right. We're starting from a blank project, and again I'm going to skip the tour. So the main screen, menu across the top here with different sections. We're in the survey section, and here are the tools for building up a survey. Questions appear in the right hand panel here, and then the options for the questions appear over towards the left here. You get a question just to start with. You can just click on that and replace it. And then type over the answers to give some options. If you wanted more choices, that's going to be from the panel on the left here. So if I want a fourth choice, I can click in there. That's your first question. If you want to add other questions, you can add them above with a little plus there, below with a little plus there, or you can click add new question over here. If you just click one of the pluses, you get a default question type. If I want to change the question type, up in this panel on the left, I can change the different question types. A lot of questions are going to be multiple choice or text entry. You may have some matrix tables, such as Likert scales. I'm going to go for a text entry here. And there's my text entry box. You can carry on adding questions. You can drag questions around to get the order right. You can get rid of questions with the minus sign there. If you want to see what your survey is looking like, you have a preview option at the top right. And you'll see how it will appear on a computer screen and how it will appear on a phone screen. You can actually answer the survey. And you'll see the same experience your users will get when they take the survey for real. That's opened in a new tab up here, so I'm going to just close that tab, and there's my survey builder here. A couple of other things you might do with questions. If you want to make your question text look more interesting or have other content in it, if you click on the question text, there's a thing called the Rich Content Editor, which brings up a whole bunch of other fonts, colours and all that sort of thing, so you can start to make your question text stand out in some way. Just click away anywhere and that will apply that. Another common option, if I increase the number of choices here, people sometimes want to add an other option, and at the end of all of these menu choices is a little menu. One of those possibilities is allow text entry, and that will then just add a little box to the other option if you want to let people add their own choices. One particular thing from an academic point of view is to have a question at the start that gets permission to use the data and checks that the user is happy with the way their data is being used. The way you would typically do this is to insert a question at the start, and instead of it being a question, you would actually set it to text graphic. So this is just going to show the information here. So you would typically put information on how the data will be used and any other terms and conditions, and then to follow that there'll be a question to get the consent. And that will typically have two choices, so we'll take that down to 2. We've got no and we've got yes. And we definitely need to make sure we get an answer to this question. So questions in Qualtrics are optional, but if we scroll down this left-hand panel, we can add a requirement and force a response. And that means they have to answer this question. For your own questions, for your other questions, you can also request a response, which is a bit less dramatic. They don't have to answer it, but if they haven't answered a question, it will remind them. But for this one, we definitely need a response. The other thing we want to do, again a bit further down this panel, is called skip logic. What we're going to do here, if on this question where we ask them their consent, if they say no, we're going to skip from this question to the end of the survey. So basically, if they say no to consent, we take them straight to the end of the survey, and we won't capture any of their data, so we don't need to deal with any data that we shouldn't be having. If they say yes, it'll just go on to the next question, and so on. So this is a very simple and short but typical academic survey. Again, if I preview that, I've got my data statement. If I say no to it, I'm going straight to the end of the survey. Let me do that again, restart that. I'll say yes this time, and it'll roll on to the next question. And we can continue with the survey. So those are the key points on making your questions. You can add as many questions as you want, get the order of them right. Now, Qualtrics won't renumber the questions automatically, but a lot of people would prefer to have the questions numbered in the right order. So here we've got 3, 4, 1, 2. If I go on Tools menu, Auto Number Questions, I can just say start from 1 and go up. And then Qualtrics will re-number those questions, which is a bit more logical when you're looking back at the results. Most of the other things in here you're not going to need. You might want to export a copy to Word, which you might want to use as an appendix in a dissertation or other write-up. In terms of the other survey options on the left of the screen here, we're in the Survey Builder. Survey flow you're unlikely to use unless you're getting into more complicated surveys. Say for instance you wanted to have a survey where staff and students were asked different sets of questions, so you might ask them are you staff or student and then give them a whole different set of questions. If you're just doing a straightforward survey you won't need to use that. Look and feel. The basic look and feel is pretty straightforward, black and white, York St John logo. Nothing wrong with that. You can change things in here if you want to. No particular need to. Survey options are all the options for your survey. Again, they're set to fairly sensible things. You might want to change the name and the survey description. That's what appears in the little tab at the top. Most of the other settings are sensible. So you can, for instance, change what happens at the end of the survey, the message that you get, and so on. Quotas you don't need to worry about. You have a large quota at York St John. There's no particular limit that's going to affect you. And then translations. If you need to translate a survey, you can use the translation tool to provide alternative versions of the questions in different languages. So there's our survey. If we wanted to make this live, we need to publish it. So if we go publish, and we need to confirm that with another publish, that's now active. We get the link there that we can send out to people. This link will stay the same even if you change the questions or edit any things. What you do need to do though, if you were to change a question, you need to republish. So if you make any changes to your survey, republish, and that just puts the latest copy available to everybody. Other tools across the top here, the survey tools where you built your survey, workflows you're unlikely to use because that's all about responding to surveys, maybe sending a marketing email in response to a survey, not typically used for academic surveys. The distributions tab, one of the possibilities here is to close your survey to new people. It also has the anonymous link, which is the same as the one we saw a moment ago. Exactly the same link, but it's another place to copy it from. All these distribution options, such as emails, are using the Qualtrics survey email system, not normally used for academic surveys. Academic surveys typically use an anonymous link. The data analysis screen shows all of your responses, including the ones you've done whilst testing. You can look at them down here. You don't get a very easy view down here. You can add other columns in, but it's not really a good view. If you want to see one entire survey, you can use the ellipsis on the right here and go view response, and you'll see the survey pretty much as the person taking it saw it. If you want to delete any surveys, you can also use that same menu to delete that response. When you've got your answers, one of the possibilities from this screen is to export your answers. So if you export the data, lots of possibilities here. The two most commonly used are straight into SPSS or CSV to open up in something like Excel. If I download it and open it up in Excel, what you'll find when you see it in something like Excel is all of these first columns are automatic data and not your specific questions. As we go on, we get your questions and the answers below. Each row is one respondent. You could delete these initial columns. The only one that's particularly useful is the progress column. So that's giving you hundreds here. That means I got to the end of the survey. If you had something less than 100, it means they didn't get all the way through the survey, so maybe they stopped part way through. And you'd have to consider whether to use that data or not. Back in Qualtrics, the last menu to have a look at is the results menu. So here you'll see visualizations of the different questions you got. Now, some of them can be graphed, such as my favourite colour question. Some of them are just going to give if I go on to a text-based question, it's just going to list the answers there. If I wanted to change one of these visualizations, I can go into edit mode at the top. I can edit the particular visualization I want to, and I've got options here to change, including on the display style. If I want to do something dramatic and make a totally different graph, I can come up onto the top control up here and maybe say make that into a pie chart. However, when you do change the entire graph, you need to tell Qualtrics what data to use. So you've typically got to add in metrics, and the metric here is count, so count how many people chose each option. That's often the metric you're going to use. And the dimension is which question are we getting the data from. So even though we started with the data from question 3, that you don't have to take data from that, but that would make sense here. So I'm going to select that, and there's our pie chart version. And again, there's options to change the chart styles and so on. If I say done to that, and I turn off the editing mode, we're back to seeing our visualizations. If I wanted to get those out of here, I can export an individual one from the little dot 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 menu, so I can take it as a JPEG or other types. If I wanted to, I can download the whole dashboard, and again there are various types here, particularly docx to go straight into Word. Maybe other types might be useful. I'm not going to cover the reports menu because that's for building whole reports in Qualtrics, which typically academic surveys don't tend to do. You tend to write the report separately and include some of the data maybe. If I click on the XM in the top left hand corner, you'll see all your surveys listed down on the side here. You can click on them to go back to them. You can close a survey, that means people can't start a fresh survey or open it if you've previously closed it, and lots of other options down there. So one final reminder, do make sure you're on York St John Qualtrics. So the easiest way to guarantee that was the Moodle Services menu into Qualtrics Survey there.
More help is available from Digital Training. Send us an email, book a tutorial session, or see the help pages on our website.